There's a float plane pilot standing on top of his own sinking airplane in the middle of a freezing Alaskan river, making a phone call he never thought he'd have to make. That's not a movie scene. That's a real NTSB case file involving one of the most beloved airplanes ever built, the Piper PA-18 Super Cub. This is the aircraft bush pilots call the toughest little airplane in the sky, the one that can land on a sandbar, a glacier, or a ridgeline no other plane would dare touch. But that same toughness has a dark side, and today we're breaking down exactly how this legendary aircraft works, why pilots trust their lives to it in the most extreme terrain on Earth, and the real NTSB investigation into a Super Cub crash that ended in tragedy. Stick around to the end because the way this story unfolds will change how you look at every bush plane you see flying over Alaska. Before we get into it, hit subscribe. This channel breaks down real aviation history and real NTSB investigations every single week. Origin story. The Super Cub didn't start as the Super Cub. Its story begins with the Piper J3 Cub, the little yellow trainer that taught an entire generation of Americans to fly before and during World War II. Piper Aircraft built tens of thousands of these simple two-seat tail draggers, and after the war, Piper kept evolving the design. The PA-18 Super Cub arrived in 1949 as a beefed-up successor, with more horsepower, flaps, and a stronger airframe. Piper kept building Super Cubs for over 3 decades, from 1949 all the way to 1994, which made it one of the longest continuous production runs in general aviation history. Engines grew over the years, from 90 horsepower up to the 150 horsepower version that became the most popular variant. What started as a simple trainer evolved into something completely different, a rugged utility aircraft that could go places no other certified airplane could. Design and STOL. Here's what makes the Super Cub genuinely remarkable: its short takeoff and landing capability, known in the industry as STOL. With the right modifications and a skilled pilot, a Super Cub can get airborne in under 100 feet and land in an even shorter distance. That's not an exaggeration. It's a documented capability that's made this airplane the backbone of Alaskan bush flying for decades. The high wing design gives it excellent visibility and lift at low speeds. The flaps allow steep, slow approaches, and the tailwheel configuration, paired with oversized tundra tires, lets it absorb impacts on rough gravel bars, tundra, and unimproved strips that would destroy a tricycle gear aircraft. Bush pilots also fit Super Cubs with skis for snow and ice operations, or floats for water landings. This versatility is exactly why, even decades after production ended, the Super Cub airframe remains one of the most modified and customized aircraft in general aviation.
Real-world use cases. Because of that versatility, the Super Cub found itself doing jobs no ordinary airplane could handle. In Alaska, it became the workhorse for reaching remote villages, hunting camps, and fishing spots with no roads and no runways, just a sandbar or a patch of tundra. Ranchers across the American West used Super Cubs to check fence lines and herd cattle from the air. Glider clubs used them as tow planes because of their reliable climb performance, and commercial operators use them for banner towing at sporting events and beaches, a role that, as we'll see, comes with its own serious risks. This is an airplane that never really had one job. It became essential infrastructure for parts of America that regular aviation couldn't reach. The Chugiak, Alaska fatal water crash. Now let's look at a real NTSB investigation that shows both the value and the danger of flying a Super Cub in Alaska's unforgiving environment. In August 2015, a private pilot and his passenger departed on a cross-country flight between 2 Alaskan communities in a Piper PA-18 tail number N3675P. Their destination airport sat along the shore of an inlet waterway, which meant their approach path would take them directly over open water. About 3 hours into the flight, state law enforcement received a distress call. The pilot reported that his airplane had crashed into the water and that he was too far from shore to swim to safety. Rescue crews scrambled, but the outcome was devastating. Both the pilot and his passenger were confirmed dead. Recovery crews later used a helicopter to lift the wrecked Super Cub out of the water, its tail section severely crushed, and transported it to a secure facility for the NTSB to examine piece by piece. Investigators worked to reconstruct exactly what happened during that final approach over the water, in a case that highlighted just how unforgiving Alaska's remote geography can be, even for an aircraft built specifically to handle it. Why Super Cubs keep crashing? This wasn't an isolated case. When you look across the NTSB accident database, Super Cubs show up again and again in a very specific type of accident: loss of control, especially during low-speed, high-angle maneuvers close to the ground. In one case, a Super Cub conducting a banner tow operation lost control at low altitude, a maneuver pilots describe as involving aggressive pitch changes and full power right near stall speed. In another, a pilot performing touch-and-go landings in fresh snow experienced carburetor icing after failing to leave the carburetor heat on long enough, causing a partial power loss right after takeoff. These cases point to a pattern. The Super Cub's biggest strength, its ability to fly slow and operate in extreme conditions, is also what puts pilots into the danger zone, right at the edge of the stall, with very little altitude to recover if something goes wrong.
Legacy today. Despite that risk profile, the Super Cub's legacy has never faded. If anything, it's grown. Original Piper-built Super Cubs from the 1950s and 60s now sell for well over $100,000. And a company called Cub Crafters essentially reinvented the design decades after Piper stopped production, building modern, more powerful successors that carry the Super Cub's STOL DNA into the 21st century. Backcountry flying competitions built entirely around STOL performance now exist specifically because of the standard this airplane set. It remains, more than 70 years after it first flew, the benchmark every bush plane manufacturer still measures themselves against. Outro. The Piper Super Cub proves something important about aviation. The same design that lets a pilot land on a gravel bar in the Alaskan wilderness is the same design that leaves almost no margin for error when something goes wrong. That trade-off is written into every NTSB report we just covered. If you want more real aviation history and real accident investigations broken down like this every week, hit that subscribe button right now, and I'll see you in the next one.